Hello and welcome back, I'm ShyWizard and I'm going to do another modding tutorial here for Farming Simulator 17. In this particular video we're going to look at increasing number of field directions, multi-terrain angles. I've come over to this particular site, Forum Giant Software. I'll put a link in the description to this particular page. I'm not going to actually use the, I'm going to use the information from here, but it's been laid out in a slightly different way in a PDF by a guy called Peter. I don't know the person. Unfortunately, the link to his actual download from his Dropbox has now been deactivated, so unfortunately I can't share that, but I've got the actual copy of it. So I'm going to work from that because it gives a lot more information than what's on here. It starts off exactly the same as this, but goes into greater depth if you want to go above the 8 different directions. As it says down bottom here, you've got 4 is the default and we're going to go to 8. That's probably what I'm going to do in this particular video. I'm just going to show the 8 different directions. I'm going to increase it from the standard default of 4 up to 8, but I'll go through the PDF just to give you a bit more of a in-depth look on how to increase the channels if you want to go more than 8 directions, and we'll see where we go from there. So I'll put a link in the description, as I say, to this particular page, and you can use this information, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what needs to be changed if you want to increase above 8 different directions. So I've got the PDF here on my desktop. As I say, this was put together by a guy called Peter. It's very well laid out and put together, so I'm going to just basically go through this. It talks a little bit about the top here about increasing the number of angles for cultivators, ploughs, seeders, and what you need to do with the cultivator density GDM and things like that. Gives thanks to the guy from Giants, I believe this guy is, I'm not going to even pronounce that name, and Decker, obviously a well-known modder, who has kind of like explained the power of 2 when it comes to how to increase channels. You can't just go, if it's channel 1, you can't just go up by 1 number, you have to, it's what they call power of 2, but we'll get to that as we come through this. So tools that are required, so if you want to play around with this, you'll need Notepad++ or other text editors. There are many available. I use Notepad++ because it's easy to use, it's free. Latest version of the GRLE GDM converter and latest version of Giants Editor. So what we're going to do here, as I say, we're going to be looking at the convert the multi-angle, and we're going to go from the default of 4 and up it to 8 in this particular video, and it's basically saying that we need to adjust some parts in the Mapoi 3D, and then also change some parts so that the actual renderer can see what parts we need to change and then work together with all that. So we need to change some parts here. This again is in our Mapoi 3D, and then we also need to look at our ground shader.xml, change some parts in there, and we need to create a new script called modmap.lua so that the script actually then tells the game that we've increased the number of channels, basically the density channels. We're adding an additional one, if you like. So we need to have that script for it to work. We also need to tell the mod desk where the new Lua script that we're going to be creating is, and to run it, obviously. And we need to put those parts together, so we need to do that. So we need to change some parts in our mod desk. We also need to change our cultivator density, and we need to increase the number of channels in that particular GDM, and this is where the converter comes in, the GRLE GDM converter, because we need to convert the actual GDM to a PNG and allow Giants Editor to then recreate our GDM for us with the increased number of channels. It does state here in this PDF, as I say, by Peter, that by increasing the number of channels and things like that, sometimes you may find that there will be things displayed slightly incorrectly. If you have fields that have been rotated by 90 degrees, it will only show 45 degrees afterwards, because unfortunately the way that the editor works, it can't convert some information, just a limitation of the editor. So this is the site you need to go to get the GRLE converter, gdngiantsoftware.com. I'll put a link in the description again. I believe you have to log in. I'm pretty sure you still have to log in. You have to create an account. It's totally free. Log in and then you can download the GRLE converter from there. I think it's 7.0.1, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. And then unzip it, drag and drop your cultivated density GDM over the convert command, which will give us a PNG. We can then take our cultivated density GDM, delete it, because it's going to look at the PNG. We don't want to keep the cultivated density GDM there because the game will look at that. It will take priority over the PNG. So we need to delete this so that it then uses the PNG. Once we've done that, we can open up the editor and save the map. This will then cause Giant's Editor to give us a new GDM, a new cultivated density GDM with the increased channels. I've had a couple of problems with some mod maps where it will not. I can convert the actual GDM to a PNG because the actual converter software is a program is completely separate to Giant's Editor. It's a program all of its own. But then when I actually open the map in Giant's Editor, it gives me an error and says that it won't actually then create my GDM. It says that I haven't got enough channels. They should be 11 and I'm asking for 12. So just be aware of that. Hopefully that won't happen in this case. I've created my own sample mod map from Crest Valley just to do this experiment, or this video, this tutorial. So I shouldn't have any problems, but we'll see what happens when we get to that part. Once you've checked that you've actually got your cultivated density GDM, you can then go ahead and delete your PNG because we no longer require it, and just keep the cultivated density GDM. As it states here, the use numbers in this tutorial will allow you to use 8 different directions for the fields instead of 4 by default. If more directions are required, then you need to change some other parts within the map 01 and in the script and the shader as well. And it then goes on to explain a little bit more down here about raising channels up from 8. You're allowed a maximum of 360, but because up is down, up is the same as down basically. So if you're going north to south, that's the same as south to north if you like. So you can half that, you can split it, and then leaves you with a maximum of 180. But then we also need to work with the powers of 2. So if you have 4, then you need to go to 8, and then 16, 32, and so on and so on. And this explains that down here. So if we start at 180, which is we've established is our maximum number, you can then round that down with the power of 2 to 128, and then that goes down to 64, then 32, then 16, 8, and 4. So because you can choose a number of angles, this particular PDF, like I say, is created by Peter. So he's basically explaining that he's gone into the map after going through all of the maximum 180 directions, and he's gone into the map and checked them all out and found that for him 32 was his sweet spot because it gave a good ploughed texture, and it also allowed hired worker to do its job basically. If you have more than 32, chances are if you use hired worker a lot, you may not be able to find the angle that you ended up on. So if you're seeding a field, it may not necessarily make a lot of difference if you're ploughing or cultivating, but if you're seeding and your seed drill runs out of whatever seed you've got in it, and you then have to leave the field to then go and refill it, for example, because you're working with so many different angles, you may not then be able to re-find the angle that you were at. It may start going down the wrong angle. It might start going down the wrong line because you've got too many directions to work with, and hired worker will then just basically go off on a tangent and do whatever it feels like. So just be aware of that as well. If you continue to increase your channels, your directions above 32, according to this information, you may then run into some problems with hired worker. But that was whatever map that was tested on. So you may find that other maps will allow you to go above 32 and work perfectly fine. You may not even get to 32. You might find that 8 is the maximum you can get to, and hired worker won't go any further. If you use hired worker a lot, then obviously that's something you need to take into consideration. So then it's going on to say that obviously if we're going to increase our directions higher than 8, we need to add another density map channel. So where we increased it from 11 to 12, we need to then increase it to 13, as it states just here, and then obviously that would go up and up and up. So then, so as you come through, every time you increase by a power of 2, 4 becomes 8, number of channels went from 11 to 12, and then therefore from 8 to 16 you add another one, which is obviously, I say, from 12 to 13 and so on if you want to increase it further. So we need to then obviously make some additional changes again there. These are the changes we will make originally to bring us up to 8 directions, but then if we want to go further than that, we need to change that up to 4. We need to then obviously adjust our shader again, and because it's powers of 2, you could look at this and go 2 3s is 6, but you can't have 6 and 8 because it just won't work. It'll fall over on itself, it just won't work. So I would say that looking at what I've gone through here, if we look at this number, 2 4s is 8, and you need to round up the 6 to a 7, so you then have 7 and 8. And again, if you read down, if we continue on down, it says then that 7 will become 15. Well, 2 7s are 14, not 15. So again, you have to work with this number here and make this whatever it will be 16, and then make this one 15. So because you're working with the powers of 2, you have to then sometimes round up this number so that you don't get a differential between the two, and they need to be within one number of each other. So that's that. And then obviously again you need to change your Lua script. So we're adding another channel, so 1 would then become 2 if we're doubling it up to 16 directions from 8. And every time you do this, you will need to then convert your GDM to a PNG and then have GiantZilla to update the amount of channels that your GDM will have on it. So you're basically converting your GDM to a PNG and allowing GiantZilla to then reconvert it back to a GDM and update the number of channels every time you do it. So if you're going to experiment and go from 4 to 8 directions, you'll do it once, and then if you're going to go up again, so the next one would be obviously 16. If you're going to go up to 16, once you've actually put it into the map, saved the map, gone into GiantZilla, gone into the game and tested it, you think actually I want to go to 16, you'll need to then convert your GDM again to a PNG, make your changes and allow GiantZilla to update it and reconvert and create a new GDM each time you do it. So I just wanted to show you that there. There's a lot of information in this. Again, this is not mine to share, this is just something that I managed to get hold of before the link went dead. But if I scroll through this slowly enough, you can pause the video and read through this and get some information from here which may help you a little bit further than what's available on the Giants forum site, because that only goes so far to 8 channels, whereas this information takes it a little bit further up to much higher, above 8 different directions. So anyway, I'll just keep going through here, so as I say, you can pause this and read through this at your own pace and whatever else if you so choose to. Right, so like I say, I'm going to move this over to my other monitor so I can actually work with it. And what I want to do here is I've got my sample mod map here. As I say, I've created a new sample mod map from the Crest Valley map. So I'm just going to go through the actual PDF on my other monitor here, and I'll show you what I'm doing down here obviously. So the first thing we need to do is change our i3D. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to open this up in Notepad++, like so, when it gets there. And we need to go down to the detail layer area. So you could do this many ways if you wanted to. Let me close that because I don't want that open, just not now anyway. So I've done this search many times, which is my materials search. If you've watched any of my previous videos, everything I do really revolves around the materials section, and then I find file IDs and things from there. So you could put in here detail layer if you want to and then do a search for that. I'm just going to go with materials. I'm going to go to the bottom of the materials section here and scroll down, and below my foliage multi-layer section here I've got detail layer, and this is the one we're actually looking for, this one here, the terrain detail, not the terrain detail height, the actual terrain detail. And what it's saying in the PDF, if I just bring that back over, it's saying that we need to increase our num density map channels from 11 to 12. And that would be this part here, a num density map channels. So we're going to increase that to 12, like so. If we continue on down through, it's then showing us that we need to change some other parts in that exact same line. So we've got our combined values, if I show you that, combined value channels, and this is what we will have at the moment, but we need to actually change it to this. So I'm going to just drag that back over there. So if we scroll across here, so we've got combined value channels, so if we scroll across, we've got that just here in this section. So we need to change that just there, so that 2 will become a 3. That's it, that's all you need to do in that particular area there, and we can go ahead and save. That's all we're going to do in that particular part of it. So then what we need to do is go into our shaders. So we're going to go into our shaders folder. Now again, whatever map you're going to try this out with, the shaders may be in a different folder, they may be buried within the maps folder, there may be shaders in here. You need to find the actual shader that's going to be appropriate for whatever map you're working with. Again, because this is a sample mod map of Crest Valley, all the shaders are exactly where they would be anyway. Pretty straightforward standard map. But if you're working with a mod map, then the creator of that particular map may have shaders all over the place. So just be aware of that. Make sure you're going to edit the correct one. So I'm going to go into the ground shader XML here. I'm going to open that up in Notepad++. And it clearly states in the PDF here, if I just drag that back across, we need to change line 207. Now, if you're working, theoretically, the ground shader.xml shouldn't be adjusted at all until you're doing something like this, for example. But you may find that, again, the map author has gone in and made some changes. So line 207 is a standard ground shader unedited. So you might find that if you go to line 207, the information that you are looking for isn't there, then chances are you already have a modified ground shader.xml, so you might need to take into consideration those changes, and this may not in that case work. So just be aware of that as well. Okay, so what it's saying here then, we've got our angle. We need to change the 3 here to a 7, and we need to change the 4 there to an 8. Again, going back to what I said before, so if I just go back a step, we've got a 3, power of 2, so that would be a 6. Power of 2 on the 4 would be an 8, but we can't have that gap in the middle. It can't be 6 and 8. They must be, concurrent. So basically, we can change our 4 to an 8, and then our 3 needs to be a 7, not a 6, because it needs to go 7, 8, not 6, 8. It's just the way the engine works. Don't ask me why. I don't understand that part of it. I'm just following the instructions that are laid out, and they work for other people. So theoretically, they're going to work for me too, and hopefully you guys as well. Okay, so now we've made those changes there, go ahead and save that. Don't need to make any further changes in there for now. Again, if you were going to be increasing your directions from 8 directions to 16, you would need to come back into here and then change that as well. So again, power of 2, 7 would become 14, but it actually needs to be 15, and then 8 would become 16, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so moving on down to the next section then, we need to create our new mod map lure. So I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to open up Notepad++ here. When you're creating your lure script, I would come into this page here. Don't take it, well, you can't take it from the PDF because you haven't got the PDF, so you'll be coming here anyway. So come to this site here and just go select all, and then go Control-C to copy it. Come over into your we won't save that, we'll create a new one, and then just paste it in from there, and it should lay it out in exactly the way it's meant to be laid out. If you don't put it in there properly, then obviously the script won't run properly, so you need to make sure that it's laid out in there correctly. So obviously you're going to have this access to this only anyway, so this is the only place you're going to be able to get the information, so that's pretty straightforward really. Just select that, copy it, paste it in, and you're good to go. And then obviously we need to save this, so I'm going to go File, Save As, I need to come down to my save type as. I'm going to put it on my desktop for now. And we need to save this as a Lua, so Lua source file, like so. And in here I need to obviously change this. I need to name it, oops, mod map. So it's going to be our mod map Lua, and we'll save. There we go, done. So now I can close that down, and I've got my Lua script on my desktop. Come back over into my map. I can then basically drag that over and put it into there like so. Perfect. Okay, moving on. So we're going to adjust some of these parts because we are adjusting our angles. So we need to change the class name to mod map from sample mod map, and we need to point the file name in the right place to look at our new Lua that our Lua script that we've just created. So I could probably take this from here, so I'm going to just copy that. I'll just minimize that for now. So I'm going to open up my mod desk here, and as you can see, this is just a sample mod map that I've created, nothing special in here. So my class name, I need to change that, so I'm going to do like so. I've come back over to here. The next thing I need to change is the mod map Lua. So I'm going to just take that, I'll drag that up over there somewhere out of the way. And then we need to change our file name here. So I'm going to basically just highlight all of that and paste it in there like so. So now the mod desk is looking for a mod map file, or the class name of mod map, and it's looking for our file, our Lua script, in the correct place. Now obviously if you want to put your script in a different place, if you want to put it in a scripts folder, you'll need to change your path name, so that would become scripts modmap.lua. Whatever you want to do there. I'm just going to leave it in the main directory with the mod desk in the root directory and just leave it like that. That's perfectly fine. We can go ahead and save that. Perfect, done. Okay, so next thing we need to do then is use our GRLE converter. I'm using version 7.0.1. As far as I know, that's still the latest version. Get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. So we now need to change our cultivated density. So we're going to go into map01 folder here. We've got our cultivated density GDM. I would probably say the best thing to do would be to just move the whole thing over like so. So you've got a backup. As I said earlier on through the instructions, it says to delete it. I would keep it there, so if anything goes wrong and this doesn't work, you can always put your cultivated density GDM back in the folder, go back into the map01.xml, change all your values back to default, change your mod desk.xml back to default, and you'll still have a running working map. You won't have to lose everything. If you delete that, then theoretically, if you were to change everything back and then open the map in GE, Giants Editor would recreate your new cultivated density using the default values, but I wouldn't bet my life on it. So just bringing it over into this folder, you've got it there as a backup, so if everything goes Python, you've always got that there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to highlight it, and I'm going to drag and hover it over the convert.command, and I'm going to let go. DOS window will come up and tell me that it's saving to cultivator_density PNG. Press any key to continue. Done. Perfect. So now what I need to do is take my cultivator density PNG, and I'm going to Control X to cut it, come back over into my map01 folder and paste it in like so. Perfect. Close that down. We don't need that anymore for now. Okay, so we've now increased our channels in the map01.xm, the map01.i3d. We've changed some parts in there to do with our increased angles. We've created a new script, so the script is going to tell it that we've got an increased channel or an additional channel I should say, and we now have converted our GDM to a PNG. Sorry about the phone. Always forget to turn the damn phone off every single time. Okay, so the next thing we need to do then is open the map in Giants Editor, and if we've done everything okay, we should get no errors. And then from there we will be able to create our new GDM by just literally saving the map. So luckily we've got no errors. Fantastic. So Giants Editor has accepted the new increased channels from 11 to 12 on our density num channels, or num density channels, or whatever they're called. So that's great. And now what I can do is literally, I'm not going to move anything around the map, I'm just going to save it. And then once we've saved this, close it down, we can go back into our map01 folder, so that's saved fine. Close that down, we go back into our map01 folder. If we have a look now, we've now got our new cultivator underscore density GDM, and we can now delete the PNG. We no longer require that. Fantastic. So the next thing then would be to go into game and check that we've actually got our increased directions basically from 4 to 8. So that's what we're going to do now. Right, so what I've done here is I've gone into the unedited Crest Valley map. So what I want to do is just show you the standard 4 directions that we're given as default first of all, so we can compare this with our new edited map and script and all the rest of it and see what we end up with. Okay, so when you're testing this out, like I said earlier on in the video, up is down and down is up. They're all calculated as directions, angles. So just because it works from south to north doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get anything or the correct display in the opposite direction. So obviously I know this is going to work because it's unedited, it's the standard Giants Crest Valley map, but we'll do it anyway, why not? So we have our two different directions there. Then if I go across the map, so we'll just go this way like so, that'll do fine, and then we can go back the other way as well. Okay, fine, perfect. So now if I actually go off on an angle like this, we have another direction, and then another direction this way, like so. If we actually look at all of these, you can sort of see that some of the marks, like there, they're actually going off this way. They're not actually going in the direction of the cultivator. If you can see what I mean there, the actual texture is drawn in at an angle going off this way. And what we're trying to do here is eliminate that by adding in these new angles. It's quite difficult to actually see. I've done this many times on different maps, and so far I've not been able to tell a massive change. And I've only got up to 8 channels, or 8 directions I should say, 8 angles, whatever you want to call them. So the more you increase it up to 16, 32 and so on, you may then find that that's going to give a massive change. You're going to see a massive change in your gameplay. So from 4 to 8 you might not notice a massive change. If I do a quick circle here, we'll just see what that sort of gives us and see if we can actually tell a difference when I do it again with the 8 directions. So if we do that, I'll just jump out and have a look. I mean, to me that looks perfectly fine. I can't really see anything there that I would go, that doesn't look right. I mean, you know, it's cultivated texture. What I will do is, just out of curiosity, before we move on to the map that I've just edited, I'm going to go and get a plough, and I'll come back and we'll test it with a plough and just see what texture we get with a plough, because it's sometimes a little trickier to see with the cultivated texture. So I'm going to go and get a plough, I'll come back and we'll just check that out. Okay, so I've got and purchased a plough, so I'm just going to drop the blade here and we'll just see what happens. So we'll do one direction there, and we'll do one direction here. So far so good. So let's see what happens if we go off on an angle. And we'll do the circly thing and see what happens. So as you can see, some of the actual directions that the plough shows up is not quite as it's meant to be. It's not giving us, it's very difficult to actually count them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, is that 4? Yeah, that's the same as that one. I count 4 because that one's the same as this one over here. Anyway, you'll need to have a look on the map that you're going to edit and see what changes you're going to get from it. I found it very, very difficult to identify all of the different directions. That looks like 4 to me, and that's what I'd expect from a default map. So what I'll do is I'll exit out of this one, I'll load up the edited map, and we'll have a look at that and see if you can, in the video, go backwards and forwards a little bit and see if you can actually notice any changes from the 4 directions to the 8 directions, and we'll see what we have then. Right then, so we're back in game again, and this time we're on the modded map with the additional directions. So we have 8 now instead of 4, so if I drop the cultivator down, we'll just go ahead and see what we get. Hopefully we can see something different to what we had before with only the 4 directions. So if we go off against this way, again I find with the cultivator it's not the easiest thing to see all the directions and whatever else. It's a little bit easier sometimes with the plough texture. So that's all of those. They look pretty good. So if we go off on an angle here, yeah, it looks like it's following the actual cultivator, not going off on a tangent, so that's good. And we'll go over this way. Yep, again that's following the cultivator, so that looks pretty good. If we remember in the previously when we looked at the cultivator texture, even though we were cultivating in this or whichever direction it was, when you actually looked at the texture it was sort of going off at a bit of an oblique angle over this way, even though we were actually cultivating in this direction, sort of thing. So that looks pretty good. So I'll just do the quick circle thing here and see what we get from that. Again, might not be able to see a lot. I tend not to be able to see it, but you might see more than I can. There's definitely a lot more directions there than we had before. Way more, in my opinion. Sorry about my mouse, if you can hear my mouse hitting the table. My mouse mat died, so I'm just using it on the table at the moment, unfortunately. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more directions in there, I can see that. So that's pretty good. So we'll just tab around to the plough here a second. And we'll just see what we get from this. So try to find a clean spot here. So if we lower this down, there's plough texture there. Go off this direction. We'll just do the circle thing again, just to see what we get from that. I definitely think that there's a lot more, I can clearly see a lot more directions there than we had previously. Again, this will be on you to obviously look at what you're getting out of it. You might need to increase it up to 16, 32 to see a massive difference, but that to me looks like there's a lot more directions in there than we had previously. So yeah, hopefully that's what I've demonstrated there is going to work for you guys. I'm not going to go, I was going to increase it up to 32, but I think that'll really be on you, or 16 or 32 or whatever else. I think really, you know, I've shown you the basics of how to get it in, and of how to actually put it all together and get it into the map 01.i3d and adjust all your parts in your mod desk and creating your script and all the rest of it. That part is the main section to the getting it all working, if you like. Start with your 8 channels, hopefully you get it all that working, and then go from there. Hopefully you won't have any problems with converting your GDM to a PNG and then back to a GDM again with ShyWizard. Like I said earlier on, some maps I have had no problems with whatsoever, and then the next map I try, ShyWizard just will not reconvert the PNG back to a GDM. It just says no, not having it. I was told a little bit of a workaround, possible workaround would be to delete your fields, because the fields work in conjunction with other things within on the map. They can cause a conflict in converting the PNG back to a GDM. So delete your field boundaries and all that sort of stuff, and then try it. But obviously you would need to then recreate all your field boundaries. You could also export the fields into an i3D if you know how to do that, delete them from the map, and then re-import them once you've got everything working. Again, that's been a little bit hit and miss for me. It's worked sometimes and not other times, so this isn't foolproof. It is a little bit of a pain sometimes. It's just on a map by map basis. Sometimes it will work straight away, other times it will give you a real headache. I've been ShyWizard. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope this was informative and you can get something from it, and I will catch you on the next one.